When we talk about life under the sun, we're talking about our ordinary day-to-day existence. In the Bible, there's a book called Ecclesiastes that associates our lives with the futility of the toil we experience in our time here on earth. In it, there's this strong statement about how all that we do in this life is utterly meaningless. But what are we to do with this? We can all probably agree that there are moments or aspects of our lives that may seem meaningless at times, but for the most part, we try to fill our lives with moments and opportunities that will provide the greatest meaning for our lives. But the reality we all have to face is that these moments are limited since our time here on this earth is temporary. Without this understanding, time may merely mark the beginning of our next activity or as a measure of how long it takes for the next task to be completed. It's in this mindset that we miss out on how God intended for us to experience the preciousness of each moment. How in the midst of our toil, God offers to walk with us. That rather than being resigned to toil through each day on our own, we can turn to God and be renewed in the love and strength He freely gives to us. In this reality, we no longer have to feel we are controlled by the hours, minutes, and seconds dictated by our clocks, but that we can be free to listen and hear His voice in our each and every moment. We're actually able to recognize each moment as an opportunity to be with God and to worship Him.
It's this God through whom everything began. Just as God created the physical world as we see it, God also created time as we know it. They are intricately and wonderfully tied together. Just as we sense the created world through what we see, hear, touch, and smell, we can also sense this time that God created. It's a sense of order that God graciously gives us. Time was created for us to operate in, and to give us this sense of order and rhythm to life. But, as many of us have experienced, why does it seem like time is against us? There are plenty of moments when things are just chaotic and disorderly. We experience restlessness, and it often feels like there's just a lack of time in our lives. A lot of this can be resolved if we go back to the beginning. If we go back and understand that time not only began with God, but it also continues on with Him. There's a passage in the Bible where the Lord declares, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope in the future. Then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart." This practical teaching reminds us that we can trust God when life under the sun gets hectic. It helps us to understand that God is not only the creator of time, but is also the Lord over time. We can turn to Him and trust Him when things are getting out of hand or time seems like it's running out on us. God has plans for us and wants to help us. His love and heart for us is to seek Him in the time that we have right now, so that we may find Him and know Him.
Time ticks away and doesn't stop for anyone. We hurry to race against it. We want to move its hands and slow the clock down as work piles up and there are deadlines to meet. It isn't hard to feel controlled by the clock. But then something happened. God took a hold of our time. Humanity's clock was taken apart, bolt by bolt. He stepped into our time to change its beat. He dissembled the chaos, piece by piece, removing the tyranny of going from task to task. What was once finite, limited, carefully measured time on earth was undone through an incredible gift. Our clocks now flow into limitless moments, to eternal time in relationship with God. Jesus on the cross, the hour, changed everything. Because of that hour, we get to experience moments with God, moments filled with grace, moments opened wide to what He wants to do in our lives.
Redeeming time is about real experiences of waking up in God's presence and knowing that everything will never be the same again. When the alarm rings in the morning, we wake up to our time, to what we might know about life, and what our past tells us what the present and future might look like. But when we wake up in God's presence, God takes all of our regrets, mistakes, wasted and lost times. He redeems us by forgiving us and filling us with His Holy Spirit. We are set free to live the fullness of every moment with Him. Our new reference point is not dictated by our past, but is centered on Jesus who died for us. God invites us out of our time and into His time. We can now live each moment with God, and we live each minute in God's redemption. In Ephesians 5, it says we are to make the most of every opportunity and to know what the Lord's will is. God desires for people to be redeemed, and we see how God's plans are so much bigger than ourselves and our lives. We are invited into His plans and His church to make every moment count, and it is only by His Spirit in each one of us that we are able to make the most of every opportunity. As we each live in God's redeeming time, we see how God's plan is visibly being worked out. We are hopeful because God makes each minute better than the last.